Yep. So good evening, July 7th, 2025. This is Detroit in Black and White presents Reality Strikes with Eric Brown. I have two guests on today in separate segments, and those segments will be half an hour. Oh, I have two guests on today. Not bad. Those segments will be half an hour or less, and I'm for the whole month of July, I will be having city council and or mayoral candidates on the air talking about their plans for the city of Detroit. And to start off my month of speaking to the candidates, I have Janae Ayers, a former city council person. And if I had the conversation with you already, you should have done what was necessary, because you only lost by 2,000, a little bit more than 2,000 votes. And based on some of the endorsements that are coming now, it's obvious people had a great deal of respect for you. The Free Press endorsement was just, amazing. Yeah. And it's those type of endorsements that I'm sure makes you look back on 2021 and ask yourself, what could you have done differently? And even the FBI investigation notwithstanding, and that turned out to be a waste of time on the part of the U.S. Justice Department. And I'm sure that played a role in some people's going to the ballot box and voting. But the irony of it is the person that beat you by that 2,000 plus votes was someone that had their own issues and were convicted of a crime. You plead guilty, you convicted of a crime, as far as I'm concerned. And the FBI investigation against you and Scott Benson just went by the wayside. No real explanation to the public. And as it stands right now, you have a very good chance. You definitely have a very good chance of making it to the Final Four for the at-large seats. And best of luck to you come November. But with that being said, what brought you back? What made you want to say, okay, I need to be back there?
That's an excellent question, because I had to ask myself that, what are you thinking? To say that 2021 was not tumultuous, to say that it wasn't heartbreaking, would be an understatement. But what I did find was just in looking and knowing what we were going into, I already had an inclination that Duggan would be moving on. We knew he was never going to stay forever. So there's that. Understanding that we had, 5 new council members that came on in 2021, knowing the work that the council that I was there with, what we put in place, I knew right then and there that if Trump wins and things change drastically on the federal level, we have got to have some institutional knowledge that knows how to deal with the real hard times of Detroit. And that's no shade to anybody that's currently serving, because I think anybody that wants to be a public servant, it's not an easy job. However, the council I serve with, we had to make really hard decisions. I had to be able to go to the grocery store after I just had to tell somebody, well, we got to pause this pension. Those type of things, they take institutional knowledge. They take, that real grit. And I know that this current council has not had to do any of those things over the last 4 years.
And with regards to Duggan leaving, like you say, everybody knows he wasn't going to stay forever. Mm-hmm. But we also have to understand that even 4 years ago in 2021, go back 8 years to 2017, the voter turnout was abysmal, particularly in the 2021 primary season. Only 14.6% of the electorate came out. Not much better. November 2021, only 18.9% came out and voted. So you're talking about less than 20% of the electorate came out to vote in 2021 primary and general. What advice would you like to give to those that, for whatever reason, do not take voting serious, particularly local? I mean, politics are local.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so first thing, I think those of us that do participate in the process, we've got to start having the real conversations with folks. And I mean, not the ones that are equally as participatory as us. We need to go outside of our box, outside of our normal realm of folks, and just tell them, you complain about these things or those things, you have the right to change them. You just got to get active. Let's figure out what it is that's keeping them from the polls. Are you not engaged by the people that are running? Do you not feel like your issues are being addressed? Let's tell you where you can be to bring those things to the forefront. We've got to show people, like they did so many years ago, why this is important. You'd be surprised, and I have a bit of an education background. You'd be surprised how many people just don't even understand the 3 different levels of government. They don't understand government at its most basic level. So if you don't get that part, all you worried about is, how am I going to make these bills meet? How am I going to make these ends meet? And they feel like nobody is talking to them in that regard. That's what I've heard while I've been out knocking doors.
And you bring up an interesting point because, the word complain, you mentioned that. And you also mentioned the lack of knowledge a lot of people have. And I just always find it amazing how when you have so few people voting, but 100% of the people complain. I mean, that's an oxymoron. And then back in February, I went to an event, and the people at the event was as young as 18, as old as 80 plus. And it was a voter education forum that was put on by New Era Detroit. I think that's an organization that teamed up with Black Men Bill and Umoja. So I'm pretty sure it was New Era Detroit. And just to be there in that room and to listen to so many people have a lack, you mentioned it, you hit the nail on the head, have a lack of understanding about the levels of government at the local and federal level. Yes. It was beyond me to even hear that. And I will give, I think it's Pastor Mo that's over New Era Detroit. And I will give him credit because he told the audience that you can't continue to complain when less than half of you are coming out to vote. Because at that time, only 47% of the electorate had came out to vote for the presidential election in 2024. So people have to, for those of us that are very involved, those of us that understand the process, understand politics, understand how important local politics is, we can only do so much. I mean, the saying, you can lead a horse to water, you cannot make them drink it. And even the latest Gallup poll that just came out, July 2nd, I think it was, speaks to the fact that 40% of the American electorate now identifies as being independent. And they're also hoping for a third party. So without a doubt, 2028 is going to be interesting. You now have Musk and Trump fighting again. Musk has created is creating a new party. You have Andrew Yang, former presidential candidate, has created a new party. You have the No Labels Party, but you also have the Libertarians, the Green Party, Natural Law Party. And back in, up until somewhere around the 1850s, 1870s, there were numerous parties in America. Even, look at the English system. They have numerous parties over there. And I'm a staunch independent. I'm just a firm believer that there should be more than just the Democrats and the Republicans to choose from, because I'm often offended when at the state level and at the federal level, they talk about bipartisanship bills being passed, but you only have one from either side that cross the aisle to vote. And then the narrative becomes that it's a bipartisan bill. And that's not the case. People have to understand you can't say you're a Democrat, you can't say you're a Republican, and then say you care about the people. But when it comes times for an issue to vote, the party that's in power, everybody just fall in line. I mean, that's not democracy. And if there's a way to change it, and I know we talk about, cities like Detroit, where I live, Canton, we call these local elections nonpartisan, but we know they're partisan. I mean, come on. You have, in Detroit, I think the last person that was not a Democrat that held an office in Detroit was probably Keith Butler when he was on city council. So how do we change that, mindset to get people to understand that there's a bigger picture other than the ideology that most people don't even understand when it comes to being a Democrat, liberal, or Republican conservative?
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it all goes back to, if you have the information, then you've got to share the information, right? So if I don't even know the process of government, I'm probably not plugged in that there is a libertarian or a green or a people's party or so I don't know that. I know what I've been conditioned to know, which is Democrat or Republican. So
Right.
for those of us that do align with those parties, what are we doing? What's our ground game to go and engage these people? Because that's low hanging fruit, to be honest. And maybe that's just the organizer in me that's like, well, then you need to go out and spread your message because that's not for me to do if I'm not even in alignment with your party. I'm trying to fix what's happening to the one that I quasi align with, you know? So I think that part is important, but we need to just engage. I don't really care who you affiliate with. I want you to participate in the process. And we are just not seeing that. And I'm talking about City of Detroit in particular. Obviously, we care about partisan politics on different levels, but for the City of Detroit, how are we mailing out 100,000 absentee ballots and we know that on a good day we're going to get 14% back?
Right, and that's insane. And speaking of engaging, one of the most important things for a lot of people are endorsements. Because that's one way of engaging the electorate, rather than not people buy papers anymore, but people definitely go to the internet to read the paper. Detroit News, Detroit Free Press, Michigan Chronicle, New York Times, Chicago Tribune, Miami Herald. People are reading these papers online.
Right.
It had to make you feel as you're reading, because you knew that you interview with the Free Press, interview with the News, interview with these other slates, so you knew the endorsement from the Free Press was coming. But once you see it in writing, how does that make you feel, and what message do you convey to the electorate when it comes to talking about endorsements? Because people have their own perspective on endorsement, but it is a selling point for any candidates that gets it.
Yeah, but I think the conversation this day and age, 33-year-old me, even 39-year-old me probably would have had a different answer. But me, after what I've been through over these last 3.5, almost 4 years, I see things differently. So I did not know that I was going to receive the Free Press endorsement. I had no idea. I didn't find out until it was in print and someone called and woke me up and said, congratulations. And I said, for what? Being above ground? That is something to celebrate. I had no idea, right? Some of the others that give endorsements, I did not reach out to them. Not because I didn't want to, but this is the team of me and it's only one me and I can only do so much and go so far. So some of them I didn't even get the opportunity to reach out to, but that doesn't mean that I won't, if I'm so blessed to get through the primary, doesn't mean I won't reach out to those individuals. So I do hope that they know this was not a slight. But what I do know from running political campaigns, being a political director, all of that, endorsements are good, not taken away from them, but endorsements don't always lead to votes.
Right, correct.
They just don't.
Yeah. People vote, not endorsement, just like polls. Polls tell the story, snapshot of a current time and space, but people vote, not polls.
Yeah.
And right. And moving on to what's your campaign platform? And once you get elected, what do you hope to accomplish starting January 1st, 2026?
Well, number one is to go ahead and get back in the saddle and continue the work that we started. And so my thing has always been that I want Detroiters to always feel like they have a voice at the table. Because the reality is we do get people that come down on certain issues, but every person that has an opinion or has a stake in the game does not have time to come down to council meeting, sit for 2 or 3 hours just to get 2 minutes to speak about what it is. So I want Detroiters to feel like they have a voice. One thing that I did pride myself on in my office is the satellite hours that we have, because at large, you have to service the entire city. And so I made sure to bring council to your neighborhood. That's it. And I didn't you may know this about me. Some people may not. I don't subscribe to the whole, you got to have on a blazer. You got to do. No, if I'm coming to your neighborhood and we talking, I probably have on maybe a Janae's t-shirt, probably have on a hoodie, because I'm going to meet you where you are. And we talking about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't want you to feel like, oh, I'm talking to this politician. No, you're talking to a person that lives in Detroit just like you, a person who has a pension that's in both systems, just like many of these people. A person that understands what it's like to rob Peter to pay Paul because this job isn't paying enough. I need people to feel comfortable enough to have those conversations. And so that's the first thing, so that Detroiters feel included. Secondly, every Detroiter deserves to feel safe in their neighborhood. We talk about what we want to see this city turn into. Now we want to move everything into these commercial corridors, which I think is excellent. But if I'm a small business entrepreneur and I want to make sure I'm bringing a business back into my neighborhood, but nobody is patrolling my neighborhood, or I feel like I'm not going to get that police response, what do I look like bringing my resources there? As hard as we know, small business owners have to fight to get funding. So that part we've got to address, public safety. And then from a different perspective on the public safety point, we need to be looking at the attrition numbers. We need to be looking at the retirement numbers. We are losing so many good folks that know this job and know this city by the day, literally by the day. So we need to be looking at that. And how do we create a pipeline to the community for us to engage people that look like the communities that they are policing or they're responding to? That's the way that we keep that familiarity. That's how we keep Detroit in a place where we're not like, I don't know, Buffalo, New York, or choose a city from what was however many summers ago where we could just pick one. Those are the things that distinguish us. And so public safety is definitely that. Then there's this is kind of like higher level, but as the chair of the budget for 6.5 years, I was there to bring us out of bankruptcy. I was there to bring us from state financial oversight. I was the only person chosen outside of the administration to go speak to these folks on Wall Street to get us a better credit rating. Those things, I know what the impact is on us. And so if nobody else has done that, you can't tell me about how to properly balance a budget for this foregoing future with this federal government the way that it is right now. Because whether we like it or not, cities and states rely on federal funding.
Right.
That's simple. So, you know, I hear a lot of folks talking and their platform is about affordable housing. I think that's great. And if I had a magic wand, I would wave it and affordable housing would be all over the place. But the reality is, are we having the real conversation? And the real conversation is should be our partners on the federal level. Are we addressing what the equation is for affordable housing? As long as it is Detroit, Warren, and Livonia, it'll never be affordable for somebody that lives in Detroit.
And you bring up a great point, because you know you mentioned public safety. Mm-hmm. We were talking before we came on air about education, and now you're talking about affordable housing. What I learned over the last month or so about this, maybe a little bit more, maybe 6 weeks, 7 weeks, how the conversation goes with regards to affordable housing. It is unfortunate that candidates are talking about it, but not really explaining it. Because to your point, and based on my knowledge, affordable housing is not going to happen in Detroit. I mean, let's be honest, let's be real. There's the process and the formulas involved is not conducive to affordable housing. Furthermore, it's very subjective.
Yes.
Affordable housing, when they say that term, is very subjective. People fail to realize you're on the east side of Detroit, the far east side of Detroit.
Right.
You're talking about using formulas from the Grosse Pointes, St. Clair Shores, parts of Macomb County, and then that part of Detroit where the per capita medium income does not compare to Grosse Pointe, does not compare to St. Clair Shores. So subjectively, what is affordable housing? I think that one of the things that people have to do, and I hope when we, 100 Black Men, we're hosting a candidates forum on July 19th. And I just hope that the three moderators really get into the meat and potatoes of what it is to say the term affordable housing. Then you talk about public safety. Detroit has had a few incidences within the last 2 weeks that will continue to keep people away from the city of Detroit. You had the fireworks, right? Then you had the 4-year-old and 18-year-old that got killed in that same week, And then just over the weekend, you had the 2-year-old get shot by a stray bullet. Mm-hmm. So we have to understand, that there is a major problem that needs to be manifested in addition to education, because, no matter how you look at it, education plays a role in so many social ills or social positiveness that people need to understand that. You can't move a city forward until people that move here bring their kids here and put their kids to Detroit public schools. But they're moving here and they're putting their kids in, charter is public, but they put them in public schools as well as private schools or staying outside the city.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that, this had to be maybe 2018. And we were seeing this like resurgence of people that wanted to live downtown and all of that. And I was very pleased with it because, again, the city of Detroit relies heavily on property tax and income tax. So, yeah, that was good for us to maintain to a degree. But the reality is if you put young kid 1 and young kid 2 in these apartments, micro apartment or whatever, they hit it off, they marry or whatever they choose to do, and then they have a little family, number one, they're not going to be able to keep living in a micro apartment because now you have this third party. So is there enough of a draw to one of our neighborhoods for them to go there when there is no school that's right there for their child to utilize? Or if it is, it's underperforming. So when we talk about what it looks like to sustain Detroit, to keep us moving forward, you have to talk about all these things. You have to talk about how much is the cost of living. When are we going to get creative on different revenues of income outside of property tax, outside of income tax? We touched on affordable housing a little bit, but let's talk about it. We are in unprecedented times when it comes to the federal government. Things that also contribute to whether or not affordable housing is here are things like Section 8 vouchers. It is things like LIHTC, which is low income tax credits. They are subject to be gutted under this big, terrible bill that we just saw get passed. So we've got to be having real conversations about the things that actually affect those folks that don't participate in the voting process. Because if you tell somebody their Section 8 voucher might get snatched, that's a different level of listening than they may have had prior to. So I think we need to have real conversation. And it's not always going to be comfortable. And people know that about me. I'm going to tell you the truth. You might not like it, but I'm not going to lie to you.
Right. And, thanks for listening and watching G Money Hollywood. And you pretty much answered this question. He asked, what is affordable housing? That term is loose. What do you define as affordable housing and what's the price? I think you pretty much answered that. His second point is, and again, thank you, G Money Hollywood. The average politician uses, or potential politician, coin and use reinventing the wheel phrases far too much and can't define or articulately say what they mean. This is why people don't show up at the polls. That's a very interesting perspective. And you just answered it without me even knowing what he was saying.
Yeah, but
you gotta be,
I'm trying to see it. G Money Hollywood.
Yeah, G Money Hollywood.
G Money Hollywood. I agree with you because that's the other thing. No matter what this profession is that I've had or what I may be trying to do again, I vote too. So I'm looking at these same politicians and I'm like, why are you talking about this, that, or the third when you're talking to a group of people that may not fully understand it? Or even if they do, just go ahead and touch on what it is for real. So thank you for that because I feel the same way.
And I can speak to that, G Money Hollywood. I was a part of the Juneteenth Jubilee Committee, and there was a mayoral candidates forum as part of one of the activities. And and at-large candidate Ayers did ask the mayoral candidates a question that, a lot of them couldn't answer, and she knew they would not be able to answer it. So remember, when you were in line, I said to you, and you did. I mean, that's one of the things that, a lot of people don't have to like me, but at the end of the day, people know I walk it like I talk it. I'm going to say what I mean and mean what I say because I don't have time for the telling people what they want to hear. We have to get to the point of telling people what they need to hear. And that's one of the examples you did at that forum. You told the people what they needed to hear. And not just the people, but those seeking the office of mayoral of mayor for City of Detroit and the listeners and the city residents that were there at the event. And that was on point. And there was another lady after you, and she asked a great question too. When you put them on the spot and forced them to answer, you knew, because after you said you answered your question, I said to you, they didn't answer your question. Mm-hmm. See, when we know the game, we know what answer's supposed to be, and why people be so afraid to answer questions when a forum is a time to answer questions.
Because they don't know the answer. A lot of this, and to G Money's point, talk about recreating the wheel, a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, because people like to live in a grandiose space. That's never been the place for me. I tell you what I know. I will say that I have, in the almost 7 years that I represented the city, it was nothing for me to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning in my office, and I won't leave until 9 o'clock, because I need to understand all the things. So let me read, let me get this study, let me do my research. All right, now that I got it, or if I don't feel like I have a good understanding by the time the committee meeting comes up, then I'm going to ask you to hold it, because I need to understand, not for myself, but I need to understand because my mama lives here, my dad lives here, my grandma lives here. So it's bigger than just me. But anyway, let me get on.
And I think that's why it was good to see you ask that question, because even at the same time of you running for a position in Detroit, you had the wherewithal, the legacy knowledge to be able to say, okay, can you all answer this? And I know going forward, because I have every confidence that you will be one of the final four after August 5th, you have to talk about the role you play on the budget committee. During the bankruptcy, people don't know that. And I think that's some of the things that candidates have to do. They have to tell their story. Even when you were appointed. I mean, it was two good candidates then. You and Roy McAllister, two good candidates. They voted on you. You did a great job. Full election in 2017. You were elected. And you have to remind people, because people have a very short memory. You have to remind people that you have the experience. And before we go, because we have 3 more minutes, I do want to hear your take on education. I mean, I know your sister, I know your mom, I know how important education is to all 3 of you, including yourself. What do you feel needs to be done to improve the educational crisis in the city of Detroit? And it is a crisis. Ain't no beat around the bush.
Right, exactly. It's certainly a crisis. So some years ago, I did teach high school science in Detroit at an alternative school. So I taught 9th through 12th grade science. And then at one point, I considered moving out of the state. So I was actually certified reading specialist and social studies teacher for the state of Georgia. So education is supremely important to me. Obviously, that's where my family has done all their work in education. Bottom line is, as we kind of touched on earlier, if we want to talk about building communities and we want to start talking about sustainability, then we must talk about education, because that goes into the fiber of what a neighborhood is, and then what the people are of the city of Detroit, who we're employing, the fact if we can employ folks. So I do believe that there has to be a level of respect, and there's a right way to kind of deal in the space, because we all, well, I won't say we all, but many people know the council and the mayor do not have direct control over anything that happens with the school. Right. That is what they have elected people in the school realm for. However, each of us has a bully pulpit. Each of us has our own constituency, and we need to be talking about this. So as I mentioned before, my coffee hours across the city, we would invite the school board members. We need you here because they're asking me about something that you govern. So let's talk about it. Or if those things came up in community meetings or phone calls to the office, we make sure to get it over there, and we keep good relationships with the school board members, with the superintendent, because this is what my constituents are saying. And I'm saying the same things too. So none of us work in a silo. We work together. It takes what you do. It takes what I do. We got to put that together if we really want to build the Detroit that we know it can be. So have a little bit of respect, need to have those real conversations, bring people into the same room, stop operating in silos, and have real thought-provoking conversation that yields action.
And how do people get in touch with your campaign, Janae, and what closing thoughts do you have as it relates to August 5th and going forward into November?
Oh, so if you'd like to contact the campaign, you can always go to airs, the number 4, Detroit, Detroit, at gmail.com, and we make it our business to respond back. Yeah, that's probably the best way. Some people, they find me on the former councilwoman page on Facebook, so that's there as well. But my name is spelled Janee, last name is Ayers, and so those are the two ways that you get in contact with me or the team. But as far as just going forward, I appreciate you. However, you did not ask one of the things, and I know we probably do not have time to get into it, but maybe we can reconvene. Just going forward, I would like people to understand that experience is something that actually matters. And I have the experience of doing this on a municipal level when our backs were against the wall. And I don't want to sound over-grandizing, but I know the reality. You've had a council during this time that they have served you. Good job. But they served you in a capacity where they had a budget surplus. Things were already in the works. Right. So it's a little bit different when you're coming from the ground up versus when you have things kind of laid out. And if you've never been in the dirt, you don't know what to do when you get there. Hopefully you do, but I've been there already with this city. And so, again, experience matters. And I hope that people will go ahead, take your time. If you want to talk to me, you want to ask me anything, reach out. Again, I will not tell you anything that you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you should hear and what the facts actually are. So if you could, please cast your vote for Janee Ayers Cares on August 5th.
And I appreciate your time, Janee, and I'll be sure that question get answered on July 19th at the 100 Black Men Candidate Forum that I'll be hosting, but we have 3 moderators. And good luck to you. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join me on my show. And G, before you go, we do have Jonathan Barlow waiting in the studio. G Money, Janee Ayers is running for city council at large. And the second part of his question was based on he thought you were running for mayor. Why are you so late to entering the mayor's race if that's what you're running for? So again, G Money, Janee Ayers is running for city council at large, and she is also a former city council member. You want to have further conversation with Janee, she left her email address or contact information, and you can reach out to her there, or you can come meet her on July 19th at the 100 Black Men Candidates Forum that be held at Wayne County Community College Northwest Campus from 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Again, thank you, Janee. Best of luck to you.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Okay, next we have Jonathan Barlow. How you doing, Jonathan? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me all right, Brother Brian?
I hear you just fine. You're welcome, G Money. I just want to clarify based on your question. You've been very vocal with regards to this mayoral campaign, and you have also opened up some eyes to a lot of people. With that being said, why did you enter the race to become the next mayor of Detroit?
Well, let's just say this, Brother Brown, and I'll say Eric from now on. I like to at least call everybody family first before we start conversations.
Appreciate it.
Let me just say this. I often have been looked at as someone who does speak my mind. I'm very authentic. We don't hold any punches. We don't have to hold any punches when people are falling through the cracks. When families are constantly begging for help, when water bills continue to skyrocket, when utility bills continue to be something that politicians can't explain, but often say that they might have a theory about how to fix it if they can get up to Lansing or up to the federal level. See, my issue is that everybody talks about getting to another level to solve a problem that's locally, and never talks about how we could do it if we were on an island all by ourselves. And so I don't think they have enough innovative approaches. I don't think they understand money good enough. I don't think they understand. I know they don't understand business, and they definitely haven't listened to the hearts of the people because they would have spoke up a long, long time ago. So I was just sick and tired of living a good life, being able to travel because my friends who I grew up with, who become wealthy, who've been, and some of my clients who I've done great jobs for and projects for over the years. I thought it'd be good to take this pause in my life to be able to give Detroit an option that they normally would not have. People of my caliber normally don't even bother their time stepping back foot in a political arena because it caused too much controversy or too much issues with their business matters. Because I'm very free and very discretionary and very particular when it comes to the type of projects that I take on. My whole life, I've been building a portfolio of projects that give back impact. So I don't have to worry about anyone in my back pocket when it comes to making decisions for Detroiters. And that's what we plan on bringing to Detroit, a leadership that represents total value-driven, grassroots, family-centered values to the management style.
And you bring up a good point. I'm going to bring G Money Hollywood, the question he asked previously during the first interview. And I've been at numerous of your forums. I've also have had the opportunity to speak with you one-on-one, even when we first met at the one event back at the Atwater Brewery. And to reiterate what you just said, I have to give you 100% credit because you are very authentic. And I think you're the type of candidate that people need to get behind because just like Janae Ayers that just left, we need more people to tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And to that point, what G Money Hollywood talked about, he said that, a lot of the average politician uses political coin and just reinvent the wheel and talk about phrases, reinventing the wheel for much too much, but they cannot define or articulate what they mean. I have to give you credit. I was at the WC3 forum. You participated with the Juneteenth event. You spoke to American Futures. And I know Jalen from MUA, Michigan Urban Youth Alliance, have you scheduled to come speak to the youth. You just are a breath of fresh air. So with that being said, what do you see as some of the major issues impacting Detroit in a negative way? And what are 3 positive things that you think you could bring to the table to impact Detroit going forward so that people want to be a part of Detroit, do business in Detroit, and be a part of the Detroit moving forward? Because you can't call yourself a great city when you have too many wars to worry about curing.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you asked that question, and as complex of an answer as I can give you. I want people to start to understand how we cure community, how should I say it, community plagues or community ailments. Those things that continue to become sort of this revolving door of problems that we don't understand how to solve and it's like a tornado of problems that we never can really put our hand on to really slow the whirlwind down. And so I want people to start to take a simple approach to how we cure our problems. We can't do anything unless we're all safe. That means that everybody has to respect and love each other, and you have to have a culture of making things solvable. And that means that everybody has to be at the table. Unless you can bring everyone to the table and have everyone commit to becoming more and more safe and talking more, it's very rare that those things, anything in the community can start to be solved. And so that's really the surrounding initial core issue is we don't talk enough. And when we do talk, it's all for an agenda. Someone's brought us to the table and guided the conversation. It's never a unanimous, altruistic, everybody chip in to both the questions and both the answers. It always becomes this favoritism scenario. But so after we're all talking, we have to look at the 4 key issues. We can't as a whole produce more unless we're all moving around and unless we all have shelter. And unless we all have shelter and are able to move around to get to work, we can't feed ourselves. So those 4 things, food, housing, transportation, and jobs, continue to be the 4 things that continue to hurt us. And so I listened to you while you were talking to Janae Ayers. And so housing becomes the anchor. If you can't make sure that people have a home to go into every night, know where they're going to lay their head, can at least keep their belongings. That's why I say every family needs at least one home, because I always need somewhere to keep my stuff, know that I'm going to be safe every night, don't have to worry about what's going to happen to my belongings or what's going to happen to get to tomorrow. Everybody should be able to go home in peace. And so what I just want to simply say is that affordable housing has to become affordable. Now, I don't want to get caught up in G-Money's cliches and rhetoric. That's not what I'm going to do. What I am going to say is this: we haven't innovated our way out of it. And we've been playing by everyone else's rules. And that's why we don't own our own future. And so I will go more into affordable housing, but I at least wanted to answer your question as to what are the core issues and how do we start to go about solving them, and what's the priority of solving them. There's 4 parallels, but we all have to be safe first, and we can't ensure that with the undermanned police of 2,500 for 700,000 residents, for the type of things that we want to do in a diverse city and bring more people in. We all have to be part of this village of a safety net for our community.
And to that point, Tyler Belch, I think I'm pronouncing that right. He speaks to the fact you are an incredibly talented businessman, which I've heard from numerous people as well. With that being said, you have a reputation of being a great businessman. From those attributes and skills that you have developed, being a successful businessman that you are, how will that translate into becoming a successful mayor of Detroit?
Well, a lot of people see the city as a business, but people don't really understand the magnitude of what we're dealing with and what we have. For a city that employs approximately 35,000 employees, for a city that sits on international waterway, as well as the borders, of course, an international another country or whatever. I just say that with the region that we have in terms of being a tri-county region, ultimately really taking up the Southeast Michigan block, we're just in a very critical position geographically with a lot of different resources that we have to understand where our assets are. And so I don't consider Detroit a business. I consider it an ecosystem. And if you don't understand how to really manage an ecosystem, which is similar to managing industry, getting players and stakeholders to converge to make different impact, not only solutions, but strategies to be able to go after complex or comprehensive type of needs, then you're not going to be able to really skin the cat the right way. You can skin the cat, but will you skin it the right way? And a lot of people don't understand what levers need to be pulled. And so I give you a clean example, a pure example. You can't just bring someone in that only understands policy. You can't bring someone in that just understands nonprofit. You can't bring someone in that just understands anything from law to community, from a pulpit, or any of the other candidates and what they bring. You have to bring someone who has all those things put together and has a diverse understanding of all those different characteristics. And that's what I bring. A lot of people think that I'm only a businessman. Well, no, I was a community organizer 15 years ago when I ran for city council. I've been a coach. I've been working in schools. I've been leading projects globally. I've changed legislation. I've actually sat in courts and had the city fight me legally on the legislation that I change. And so from legal battles to legislation battles to fixing community problems and being on the front lines of grassroots, I've done all of that. And it's hard for people to understand how I can be so quiet in doing all that. Well, when you don't look to take credit for a turkey giveaway or a toy drive because you do so many and you support so many, then that's the type of leadership that I think Detroit needs at this time, which is innovative and allows us to think our way out of problems that we right now have had for years and decades that we no longer need to be under the pressure of.
So I want to tackle two issues at the same time, and I'll put the other comment up in a minute. You can see what G Money is saying with regards to securing funds for the city of Detroit from the federal level and about building relationships at the state level as well. But given Detroit's reputation at the present time, and the reputation gets worse when you have incidents like what took place at the fireworks. 4 days later, you had, or 5 days later, you had a 4-year-old get killed, an 18-year-old get killed. Then this past weekend, a 2-year-old gets shot by a stray bullet. Those type of things does not help when we're talking about improving the image and or reputation of Detroit. What will you bring to the table to address some of these social ills?
I think reputation definitely goes a long way. Brand marketing is my forte. I've been designing and coding probably for 25 plus years. And let me just say this. I never want Detroit to have a bad rep. And that's why everything that comes my way, whether it's good or negative, it's going to end up being good regardless. As a matter of fact, it's going to end up being great because I'm never going to let any bad story negatively affect all the good that we continue to do. A lot of times we get down when someone falls through the cracks or when we have a mistake, but we yet to have taken the opportunity to really learn from those mistakes publicly as a whole. And so a lot of times you hear about a shooting, and then you hear about a rally, but you don't understand what really was the culmination or the outcome of that rally or anything else. And so when it comes to federal funding, and with the things that we're going to need, for one, those things are built off of culture and branding, but it's also built off of relationships. And nobody has established the most relationships nationwide than I have. See, get this. There's always a fight in D.C. about who gets the most money, which state, which region. And ultimately those dollars, a lot of times are based on innovation. A lot of those times they're based off of the new waves of federal funds and where they're going. A lot of times it's based off of technology, but it's based off of relationships ultimately being on both sides of the aisle. And I have been just a steward and a student for being able to build relationships on both sides of the aisle and from an independent voice. I've worked with the Democrats. I've worked with the Republicans. I've worked with them here in Detroit. I've worked with them in Atlanta. I've worked with them in Miami. I've worked with them in D.C. I'm the only one who sits in a room every year when legislators and decision makers go to Congressional Black Caucus and they get in the room at a breakfast, and they might not let me in the room anymore. So I got to watch my words. But they get in the room and they talk about some issues. But then I ask, well, what are we taking back to the people? What are we going to take back to them to make it digestible, palatable, and allow them to move into action for the things that we need from a national level so that they understand what we're doing locally? And I never get that conversation back to you all. And that's why I'm running for mayor, because I'm tired of that conversation getting stuck in D.C. and then it get put behind closed doors. And by the time it gets to us, we're told that we're getting all this great benefit, resources, money, etc. And those programs never make it back. I believe truly we've had a lot of money come through the doors, and none of us have seen it. But also, I truly believe that we haven't asked for the most money that we can possibly receive because we don't understand how to put our lobbying and advocacy work to get dollars. And the reason why I say that is because in my part-time business that I run, from an innovation perspective where it deals with government relations and public affairs, We constantly advocate and help other mayors across the country go after more federal funds. What that means is we've helped mayors go get more dollars. What other person in this race can say that they've helped other mayors get more dollars from the feds or from their state legislators in multiple states? Nobody can say that. And that's what baffles me about how I even get put on the stage, even though I come to more than the pastor and I speak more directly to the issues than any of the sitting council people or former council people. I really know what I'm doing. I know who to get in a room with. I understand why the issues are like they are. And unless we plan on someone coming in and really helping one of these other candidates, I'm the best one to put in the office because I have the Hispanic and Latinos in mind, the Albanese, the Yemenis, the Muslim, the Chaldean, the African American, the Korean, the Asian, the Indian. I have them all in my mind when I come to make decisions.
And early Exodus, and I want to thank everyone for listening as well as their questions. Tyler Belts, G Money Hollywood, early Exodus. And he speaks about organizations being in the process of bringing forestry back to Detroit. I know that's an issue on the east side. I'm not sure how much on the west side. I think they're talking about the solar panels on the west side. But over on the east side, you do have Hans Farms that has created a tree growing project and all that. With so much land in Detroit, do you think this is a good idea, or do you think that Detroit needs to take advantage of all the land and find ways to bring companies here to set up shop?
Well, I think, first of all, when you go back to our number one issue, which is housing, we need to take advantage of our own land first. First of all, with that ARPA money, we tore down too many houses. When 80% of our stock is decaying and being demolished, we definitely cannot continue to use our land or use our housing stock inefficiently or ineffectively. I truly believe that ultimately all this land needs to find its way into Legacy Detroiters' hands through businesses, through new small corridors that could be artist corridors or innovation hubs within the community. I'm thinking about turning half of the vacant schools into skate parks and things that can really attract a whole new breed of entertainment and sports activity. Because you don't have to fully retrofit that whole building because they complain it's going to cost too much. And so when you really look at all of this land and what we're going to be able to do to make sure that we're going to be able to get people in their homes and to do the other things that you just mentioned. First of all, let me ask you this, Eric. Have you ever heard of a city AMI?
AMI?
A city AMI.
No.
You just got done talking a whole segment with a former city councilwoman, right? And she probably has never mentioned city AMI. She probably, I think she would have if she, I don't know if she knows too much about it, but this is what I'm proposing. This is what the system says. If you're a developer and you want to come into the city to create affordable housing, we give you an incentive package, correct?
Right.
Okay. Now, why is it that I have to use the AMI scale to determine what incentive package I give you?
And explain to the viewers what exactly is AMI.
AMI, area median income. Why do I have to use someone else's area median income levels to determine whether or not or how much of an incentive I'm going to give a developer for making affordable housing? My incentive package is going to determine how much affordable housing and how much discount they're really going to give to the citizens of Detroit. So why am I going to let someone else's scale determine how I put Detroiters in position for housing? It makes no sense.
Right, and that's the point. Right, that's the point that I was making with council candidate Ayers, and she's very familiar with it because you're using, and we were talking about AMI, I didn't know it, but you're using something that has nothing to do with the citizens of Detroit. You're basing it on someone else's state of being, right, to decide what's good for the city of Detroit. But then you won't have the citizens of Detroit when we talk about affordable housing. That's where there needs to be a very open and honest conversation about that. And it speaks to G Money Hollywood point. And then someone else also had a similar comment there, and I'm not sure if you see it on the screen right now, John, but someone else had a similar comment about they feel you would make a good mayor, and that someone else is Mr. 1213. He says the same thing. You know, they think you make a great mayor to bring Detroit into the 21st century with tech jobs and careers for younger people. You also would have been a better person for District 5. I'm not sure if that's a district you live in, but, you know, people are noticing you. People are understanding you. And before we go forward, let me thank everyone for watching tonight. Like, share, subscribe to the channel. But also, Jonathan, give them your information on how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, votebarlow.com. Vote, V is in Victor, OTE, barlow.com. Or just go to johnformayor.com. One of those that get you there. Or just search John Barlow Detroit.
Right, and then, you know, the last two comments, G Money Hollywood and Mr. 1213, it has to make you feel good knowing that you have people out there that think you would make a great mayor. What do you think a great mayor looks like, yourself notwithstanding?
Well, I'll be honest with you. You know what? I grew up under like that Fred Sampson at Tabernacle time where I was watching the old school players in Detroit. And I always, when I went into the room and as a little kid, Rebecca Coleman, who's a judge now, I used to run around the Detroit public school halls with her and some of the other kids. And growing up, you know, when you grew up with, you know, many of the current sitting judges and things like that, I think about our family members. I think about our dads and our moms who brought us up, and it was a unique bunch of Detroiters. What I see when I see a mayor, I see someone who needs to understand the future. Right now, right here today, you have to understand the future, and that's what saddens me and made me get in the race, because I couldn't find anyone who really understood what's coming down the pipeline and ready to prepare us. I want to see someone who's ready to be accessible, because for 15 years, the mayor's office has never reached out to me. And when I reach out, it takes me forever to get someone to respond. Mike Duggan has never said anything to me unless I went up to him at an event and shook his hand. And every time I say meet him, he says, even to this day, he be like, "Oh, okay, I think I remember." Bro, you don't remember me. You say that to everybody, but I don't blame him. But I mean, that just says the type of talent that he sought after. He sought after talent he can control. I'm uncontrollable when it comes to someone like Mike Duggan. You're not going to control me, and that's why people are scared, because Duggan, Ilitch, Ford family, a lot of them don't know what they get when they get me. And it's someone that really understands business. And that's scary for a lot of business people. Someone who understands business, who might not want to play by your rules, because he's going to make rules that give Detroiters ownership. And nobody is giving Detroiters ownership. And I'm talking about legacy and new Detroiters. If you come here to really commit to society and commit to community and commit to the things and the goals that we're talking about, you're a Detroiter. So I want to make you an owner in some type of way. So it's no black or white thing for me. It's a green thing, and it's a servitude thing. If you're about service, then you belong in the city, because I love this city. I want to serve this city, and I want others to follow that lead.
And we have not that much time, about 2 more minutes. And Early Exodus, he has a comment about, you looking at it right now, it's on the screen. Being from Chicago, he's seen over and over how affordable housing is turned into crime garments for street organizations. And then another comment comes from Chip Tracy. Better have Whitney Clark as your deputy mayor. And then we have a comment from Miss Sheila. Thank you for watching and listening, Miss Sheila. Thanks, Eric, for a great and informative show. And one of the things that, you know, people know that, you know, I'm very involved and pay attention. And one thing I did want to ask you, I was going to wait until this show to do it as opposed to calling you prior to now, is the situation that went viral with regards to the altercation you got into with someone. And, those are type of things. I even called one of your, someone on your team, my advice to them to tell you, just have to be careful because you're going to have haters out there that try and get you caught up in certain situations that can turn out to be detrimental based on, we live in a society where people are quick to pull out a phone and record their side of a narrative without people knowing the full story. So a situation like that, what advice can you give to anyone to prevent themselves from being caught up in those that want to damage your candidacy or even damage your reputation?
Well, I'll go a step further, Brother Eric. It ain't always about who might try to damage your reputation. It's also about what footage people will get and amplify. I was on Fox 2 today. I got a chance to give my side of partial narrative. Of course, legal counsel advised me to say limited things based off
right.
What the current situation is, which doesn't look like it's going anywhere. I'll just say this. First of all, nobody wants bad publicity. Nobody wants to be embarrassed. Nobody wants to give the public or other candidates something to talk about. That in no way, shape, or form did I ask for this. I didn't ask for this in no way, shape, or form. What I do believe, though, is that any situation I get in, I've been in trouble. I used to be the class clown sometimes back in second, third grade because my mind always was going in. I just wanted to find other ways to make friends and things of that nature. Well, I'll tell you this. Controversy can't find anyone, and no one's exempt. But it's about how you respond to it. I think it's about how you respond to it and what narrative you build. Because if you've been doing something right the whole time and you slip up once, then just keep on doing what you were doing. I'm not gonna waver. I'm not gonna get distracted. I think our campaign is even stronger now because so many supporters and so many volunteers have reached out and said, "Listen, we know that you kind of was set up, and we do know that people paid for different posts and different ads to run with this type of narrative to be amplified." The media has reached out to us and said that other candidates in their campaigns have called to kind of get this on the radar. But get this, dirty politics is what the world describes and defines politics as now. I don't subscribe to politics or dirty politics. I'm subscribed to government and doing a job for people, and that's what I intend on doing when elected mayor. I'm not going to run away from any problem. I'm going to lean all the way into it because I know where my heart is. I know where my intentions are. I know where my passion and love for the people is. And so I'm never going to let any TikTok superstar viral moment ruin 40 years of just solid work, giving back to the community, ministering to people. I know little kids that have been like 5, 6 years old that have grown up are in high school that I baptized. Like, what type of person do I look like to try to get disappointed or depressed just because I had a bad moment on the internet? I mean, everybody really doesn't understand my comical side. I can be very, very, very animated and dramatic if I need to be. And I might take up acting one day so people can understand that. But I just want people to understand that I'm just a great person when it comes to caring for people. Because my grandmother, I meant to tell the news, and this is the last thing I'll say because I know we gotta go. On the news today, we were talking about the incident, and I was about to tell them, like, in my phone right now, I'm carrying around Rosa Parks and my grandmother's signature on a bus boycott dispatcher driver's signer's card. Like, I have their signatures in my phone right now because I always want to remember what those women did for me and what I'm building on. Like, safety and our legacy is all I care about every day. Harnessing the African diaspora dollar net globally is my purpose. And after I get done with Detroit, I want to move on to those different things. But I need to fix Detroit first because we can be the lead for something like that.
And on that note, Mr. Barlow, can you tell the people how to get in touch with you? And then also the last comment from Mr. 1213. It's amazing that Barlow wasn't invited to the last few forums, and that's a whole nother conversation. I hate the way that they do the debates. But at the end of the day, I feel that any candidate that's running for office should be invited to these debates. The narrative is being put out there that the best are only on the stage, and that's not true. So best of luck to you. Best of luck to you and your campaign. Can you tell the people one more time how they can get in touch with you? And looking forward to seeing you on July 19th at the Wonder Black Men Forum.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it's so funny that I'm looking at my phone right now, and we talked about the incident, right? I'm on TikTok live while I'm talking to you. But the young lady's Instagram accounts are literally attacking my my feed right now while I'm on live. So it's so disappointing, but that's where we are in the world and society and politics.
Right.
313-728-2398. I answer the phone. Everybody has my number. I don't hide from nobody. Call my phone 24/7. I answer it. If I don't, leave a voicemail, send a text, and somebody will follow up with you. If not, I myself. I answer all those calls. But if I get backlogged, I will reach out. Go to Vote Barlow. The number's the same. The website's the same. Just search us, and we definitely go continue to make this do what it do.
Again, thank you, Mr. Barlow. Good luck on August 5th. I'm sure I'll see you a few times before then, but great interview, and the people are noticing you. A lot of positive feedback as we were even doing this podcast. So just keep doing what you're doing.
Man, I appreciate you, Brother Brown. Thanks, Detroit Black and White. Tell Brother Adolph and Brother Al and Brother Sister Moss that I love them to death when you see him. Brother Norman, Sister, our producer over there, Sister P. Yeah. I love you guys, and I appreciate you all for having me on. Much success in the future, and we're going to continue to build Detroit up.
All right. Thank you, Johnny. Good night.
All right.
So, heard from two candidates running for office, one at-large city council, Janae Ayers, and then you had Jonathan Barlow running for mayor. Next week, I will have write-in candidate for District 5, Whitney Clark, as well as District 6 candidate, Tyrone Carter. So thank you, everyone, for joining in this evening. Miss Sheila, Chip Tracy, Early Exodus, Mr. 1213, G-Money Hollywood, On Purpose, and all the viewers on Facebook. And I can't see those viewers at the present time. Tyler Betts, thank you for your time, your comments. Remember, like, subscribe, share, and until next week, everyone have a good remainder of this week. And I'll see you again on July 14th, 8:30 p.m. This has been Detroit in Black and White, featuring Eric Brown and Reality Strikes. Good night.